Welcome to another episode of Quest for Twice. Today is December 14th. So yesterday and this morning, stock market had a lot of upside movements because of the pivot towards a less restrictive monetary policy by the Fed. Today I'm going to step higher and look at the whole year. So what happened in this year? In economy, it can be captured by two charts. The first one is the one on the top right that shows the unemployment rate since the beginning of 2021. So we can see that has been declining from 6% to about 3.5%. Then just stayed almost a flat line, slightly above 3.5%. On the other hand, we look at the chart on the bottom right. It shows the consumer price index had a great peak in the year of 2022, then declined from there. As of last month, the core inflation was 4% year on year, and overall CPI was 3.1%. So a lot of disinflation with very little movement in unemployment rate. So about 1 year ago, I said I anticipated there will be two economic scenarios happening in this year. The first one is stagflation. That's characterized by stubborn inflation peaked but declines slowly, which is untrue. The decline of inflation in this year has been fairly swift. Other than that, unemployment rate is holding below 4%, and Fed holds rate above 5%. And this year's earning per share for S&P 500 is about $219, not far from what I anticipated at $220. So it was not stagflation this year. The second scenario I said I was thinking of was a recession. So inflation dropped towards 3%, which was true. But there was a very little unemployment rate rise. And now, before the year end, the market is expecting rate cuts next year, which was confirmed by Jay Powell yesterday. That was true. So in essence, neither scenario happened. We almost had a stagflation scenario without stubborn inflation and skipped the recession part. Nowadays, people call that a soft landing. This shows the difficulty of predicting economic outcome 1 year ahead. So what happened to stocks? As a whole, S&P 500 increased about 25% as of December 14th. However, if we look under the hood, we can see very different performances among different sectors. The most important one is the Magnificent Seven technology stocks. So that's shown as a blue line in the bottom left. That increased almost 100% in this year. Comparing to the rest of 493 stocks in the S&P 500, collectively they increased about 13.5%. Because the Max 7 technology stocks has about 30% of the total market weight. That pull up S&P 500 significantly. Another way to look at it is by the Morningstar 3x3 style box. So we can see it in the middle chart. The large growth stocks increased 36% in 12 months. Comparing to the small value stock, only increased less than 5%. So, in addition to the recession not happening, another phenomenon happened, of course, this year was the generative AI and chat GPT. There was a lot of excitement built into the stock prices of the Magnificent Seven stocks. So the soft landing and the generative AI are the two themes that can be used to explain the stock market in this year. Now let's look at the PE ratio. Using the expected earning for 2023 of $219 per share for S&P 500, we can see that the market PE is about 21.3. That's a rebound from last year. That's because of the great excitement in the Magnificent Seven stocks. So how did my portfolio perform? As of December 14th, my portfolio is up by almost 30% versus 22.5% for the entire market. The growth portfolio now is about 24.5% of my total portfolio was up 37% in this year. The weight was about 20% 1 year ago. If we look at the individual stock in my portfolio, I drew a histogram of their year-to-date return. So I have 3 stocks returned more than 75%, including Upstart, Mercado Libre, and Salesforce. I have 2 dropped more than 30%, including Emode and MEI, that's Method Electronics. As a whole, I have 7 stocks underperformed the market, 12 stocks outperformed the market. That's why my overall portfolio beat the market in this year. So let's look closer at the individual stocks in my portfolio against the prediction I made 1 year ago. So this table shows the key stocks in my portfolio and their prices about 1 year ago and the weight back then in my portfolio. I also made the predictions in their stock price performance for the 2 scenarios I was anticipating that's going to happen. One is stagflation, the other one was recession. And I also listed the amount of conviction I have in my predictions. So for AdCore, I had a high conviction it's going to outperform the market regardless of the scenario, which was true. For Energy Transfer, I had a similar conviction. However, Energy Transfer only had a market performance. I attribute that to the big outperformance from the Magnificent Seven stocks. So comparing to the rest of 493 stocks, Energy Transfer still outperform. For the other ones, it's hard to compare against my prediction because soft landing is neither stagflation nor recession. So I just moved down to Walker Dunlop. I had a medium conviction is going to outperform regardless of the economic condition, which turns out to be true. The big miss here is Emode. I also had a medium conviction it's going to outperform regardless of the market condition. So that's one of my lessons learned in this year, which I will cover later. As I mentioned, my growth portfolio was 21% of my portfolio 1 year ago, and it outperformed the market significantly in this year. Now it's time to give myself grades. So my portfolio exiting last year was about 5.4x. This year I didn't put additional capital in with the performance. now it's about 6.7x. So I outperformed the market by about 7.3 percentage points. I would give myself a B plus for capital efficiency because I need outperformance of 10 or more percentage points to get an A minus or better. For risk management, I give myself a B minus because energy transfer and alcohol still counts more than half of my total portfolio. So there is definitely some concentration risk there. And the materiality is A because both the size of my portfolio and the investment return has been material compared to my salary when I was working in the oil and gas industry. So, what are the lessons I learned this year? First, I want to review the lessons I learned in the previous 3 years. From 2020, I said sell needs a strong conviction and a purpose. So last year I made exchanges, but no outright sell to bet against the market. Number two, do not nickel and dime the market. In this year, I sold the put options to buy Illumina. In hindsight, it was a mistake. I should have bought outright when the price was attractive to lock in very undervalued shares. Number three, market can be irrational. I relearned that lesson last year and again in this year. From 2021, cheapness is not a good reason to buy a growth company. Number two, don't buy a company I can't understand. On the other hand, there are always high uncertainties in growth companies. I will miss opportunities if I don't tolerate uncertainties. So trying my best to understand the company as well as tolerating some uncertainties is a delicate balance. I'm still learning. Number three, don't be sloppy during investing. So last year I had 3% in FIS with a 24% loss because one of the reasons I did not do a deep dive. So in this summer it was a change to Walker and Dunlop, and the other exchange performed well. And this year I bought Equitrans and Illumina after deep dives. The Equitrans performed very well. Illumina I only bought in the fourth quarter, so it's too soon to draw any conclusion. From 2022, I said I was going to incorporate the macroeconomic scenarios in portfolio planning, which I did. But as I mentioned earlier, neither of the scenarios panned out. It was actually a soft landing scenario currently priced into the market. So this is the one I plan to continue to refine. What are my lessons learned from this year? Number one, I exchanged Meta and Amazon for QQQ at the end of last year. The intent was to capture capital loss for tax benefits and then buy back Meta and Amazon after 30 days. However, both stocks moved against me. I never bought them back. So that move costed me 2.6 percentage points underperformance in this year. Otherwise, my portfolio should outperform the market by 10 percentage points. So the lesson learned there is for companies I truly believed in, I need to hold them tightly. The tax loss harvesting is just icing on the cake. When the cake is too important, I should not be worrying about the icing. The last lesson learned is related to Yearend. As I mentioned earlier, Yearend was a significant underperformer in my portfolio in this year. It declined almost 40% over 1 year time frame. So if we look at its valuation metrics, around $22 per share, its EV over EBIT is only 5.3, and price over CFFO is about 10, with a total liability of $70 million. Then if we look at the chart on the bottom right, you can see the cash on hand. Yearend has at the end of each of the last 5 years, including at the end of the third quarter this year. The cash on hand was close to $700 million, about 10 times more than its total liability. I also plotted the EBIT in each year, including the anticipated EBIT in this year, which will be a little over $200 million. So the rate of increase of EBIT has been decelerating. However, it's still increasing despite the high interest rate headwind. Even without the growth, this stock can be valued as a value stock. As I mentioned earlier, based on the valuation metrics EV over EBIT and the price over cash flow, the stock is very attractively priced. So what is the best way to deploy the roughly $700 million of cash on hand? It's very clear to me that the management should buy back shares. Just imagine if they buy back 10% of their outstanding shares, that will increase my claim of cash flow by about 10%. So that's very attractive given how low the stock price is. However, the management rule out of buyback because they claim it does not help with the stock price, which to me is a wrong way of thinking of this. Of course, buyback shares does not hurt with the stock price, but more importantly, buyback stock helps the shareholders that staying invested to increase their claim of future cash flow and the future value of the company. So I'm concerned that the Yearend management will not use the big pile of cash on hand wisely. So my lesson here is that capital stewardship matters. Bad capital stewardship will destroy shareholder value. So hopefully that will not happen. And that's the key reason that despite the very attractive valuation level, I'm hesitant to add to my Yearend position. This concludes this episode of Quest for Twice. Until next time, happy investing.